Welcome to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. That's John on the left side of your screen. You folks who have been watching this for weeks and weeks, and actually for a number of years, we appreciate it. And the way we work this is John finishes up at the legislature, usually on Friday afternoon sometime, and he will come in and we'll shoot a program so you get immediate and accurate information directly from the legislature. And John always tries to bring in a special guest, and he did today. This is Dr. John Eplee from Atchison. That would be the 63rd District?
Correct.
Okay, and John, you were re-elected, so you're on your third term now?
I've been elected twice, re-elected twice.
Okay. All right. Well, appreciate you taking time out of your
thank you for the opportunity.
Your profession to be able to come in and do that. So, John, what's going on in the legislature this week?
Oh, it's been an interesting week. We've been on the floor 4 days, working different bills. Committee, we've met every day. Fed and State. John's on my Fed and State. Sometimes I refer to him as representative, and other times I forget and call him Doc. But he brings a different perspective to Fed and State, which is good because we do some bills that have to do with a medical. To have a medical background is a benefit to the committee, so we've met. We've been working. We got the sports book bill out. It's going to be run on the floor next week. That's going to be where folks, especially during this time of year with the March Madness, people will be able to bet legally in the state of Kansas, and Kansas will, of course, take a tax off that. So I anticipate that working. Last few days, we've been working on a bill that has to do with medical marijuana. Since it came out several years ago, I think 30 states or so have medical marijuana. Kansas does not, but it's going to be very restrictive. It is going to have a medical purpose, so we hopefully will get that out next week. I have been, watching some things locally, and Department of Labor is still not answering questions for people under unemployment. I got a call yesterday, and I gave them a referral, told them to use my name. Hopefully, I told them to call me back if it didn't work. They didn't call me back, so hopefully it did work for them. But everything else, it's getting. We're winding down. We're going to be on the floor next week till probably Tuesday or probably Wednesday. Then we will take a break, and we'll be off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then we will go in, and we'll probably be meeting conference committees. We'll be meeting during that period of time, and then we'll come back, do conference committees, run some bills across the floor, and then we will adjourn on the 9th, which is a Friday. It would be nice if it was Thursday night, but we'll do our first adjournment, and then we'll be off for 3 weeks, and then come back in May, last of April, 1st of May, do our 2-week veto session. And at that time, the governor, if she has vetoed any of the bills that we've passed, we'll have an opportunity to override her veto. But Doug, it's been busy. I mean, I don't know what's going to pass. I did testify on yesterday in front of the tax committee, which I used to serve on. I think, Doc, you're on tax.
I can update you on that.
For the Eisenhower Foundation tax credits. We asked for the bill to be passed out clean. It would appear a couple of amendments did get on. Hopefully that will pass. That'll give $350,000 tax credits to the Eisenhower. When they had those before, I actually purchased some of those tax credits. But other than that, it's getting up early, going to bed late.
And you had Mary Jean Eisenhower was up for that, perhaps for that session or meeting with you. I don't know.
Yes, she did. She came up and she testified in front of the committee. did a wonderful job as always.
Oh yeah.
And she's always, she always has a couple of great Eisenhower stories.
Yeah.
And
Very elegant lady.
Very elegant lady. And I told a couple of my Eisenhower stories, but to the committee. And I got most of those out of Brett Baer's book from Fox News, who wrote a book on Eisenhower a few years ago. In fact, he was at the Eisenhower Library, well, it was probably 3-4 years ago, but I had a good time. But other than that, we're just kind of getting ready for next week. It's going to be a busy, busy week. Hopefully we get out on Wednesday and take 5 days off.
Well, I know you are ready for it because you've been working so hard, so many hours. It's incredible. We're going to cut away, take a break. You're watching Legislative Updates. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. That's John on the left. And in between us is Dr. John Eplee from 63rd District in Atchison. And Dr. John, how's your home community doing with what all's been going on with the virus?
Well, I'd say Atchison and Northeast Kansas is doing really well. I like to joke and say that we're from the irregular part of Kansas up there where they have the little irregular part because of the Missouri River, but we've really managed to do well through this pandemic. We've complied with the mask situation, and I'd like to say that our rate's been a little bit lower, but like all areas, we've worked through it, and I think we're on the, I really do think we're rounding the turn in my particular district right now, Doug. So,
John, you were a medical doctor. Have been for many, many years. How many years?
So I'm a family physician that's practiced in Atchison for 40 years. I trained at KU Med Center and then did my residency in Wichita at what was then called St. Joseph's, now called Ascension Via Christi. And now I've located in Atchison and spent my whole career there and had a good time. And when this seat became vacant 5 years ago, I'd always wanted to do this, and it was just the right time of my life to do it. So I took the opportunity to come to the State House, and I'd have to say it's been a different kind of challenge as a doctor, but I've really enjoyed it. I really enjoy working with folks like John. It's been really fascinating to me.
Well, and John has spoke highly of you. And while I'm thinking about it, that's pretty, John said, I said, well, how does Dr. John cover it with his patient? And John Barker said that, well, what happens is you send a letter out and say you cannot get ill or need anything until I finish with the legislature. I guess that's working all right for you.
I've got a pretty good situation. I've got several people that cover for me, and they absorb my patients while I'm gone. And when I come back, most of my patients are happy to see me. And admittedly, over 5 years, some of my folks have drifted off to the other physicians in our pretty large group in Atchison in Amberwell Health, and it's worked out pretty well. Like I said, admittedly want to slow down a little bit. So this is, I jokingly call it my political sabbatical away from my practice, because I am a physician first and foremost, and in the House of Representatives second. So.
Well, I appreciate you serving in the House for these terms, your third term, 5 years into it now. What have you got going on? What do you want to share with us now, Dr. John?
Well, I'd say that John Barker here, Chairman Barker, has been the real taskmaster for us, and he may talk about some of the issues he's been working us on. I think the sports betting book has been a big part of the business, and it's taken some angles and wrinkles that didn't see coming, but I think now we've got it to the floor, so we're going to see what happens next week. That'll be a long one. That's going to take some time. The other issue is medical cannabis, and both Chairman Barker and I have worked hard on that, especially the chairman. I was his pack mule, brought up all his reading material today, and gosh, he's got volumes to read all weekend long, so I know he's going to be busy. I'll say that in health, I serve on the health committee. I'm vice chair of that, and we've been working real hard on a Rural Emergency Hospital Act that did get passed out of the floor, and I'm real happy about that. It's going over to the Senate. With that, we put in a grant program that's going to allow rural hospitals to grant money for certain defined issues as they transition to a rural emergency hospital. And basically, it's an adaptation of the critical access hospital designation that we have in the state. The other issue that we worked hard on in health and welfare is mental health, the mental health bill. We call it the BSRB transitioning to CCHBCs, which are a form of mental health capacity that will have better reimbursement and better access for care for mental health patients. We're really excited about that. Also, better defines the qualifications and the certifications for all those different types of counselors, and it keeps us competitive, and it allows for a telehealth presence, which is really important for our CMHCs, our mental health hospitals, rather clinics in the state of Kansas.
And John, we have a critical access hospital here in Abilene, as you well know, and this the emergency hospital designation will make them eligible for these additional grants.
Yes, I'm not sure that all critical access hospitals will want to go for this, but it's an option that's available. And I don't know the situation in Abilene. By the way, I do know Dr. Holmes. He's a close contact of mine, friend, and but I don't know whether they're going to want to look at that or not. But it's certainly available, and I think it's going to be a way to keep some of these critical access hospitals that are barely profitable afloat going forward.
I spoke with the director of our hospital, and he was very interested in becoming a rural emergency hospital. So we could move forward on that at any time. But that's my doctor. Dr. Holmes is my doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm glad. Tell him good things about me, would you?
I'll put in a good word for you,
okay.
John.
But Doc also is kind of the doctor on call. We had a member that was presenting a bill, carrying a bill on the floor, and he had his COVID-19 shot that morning. He got a little shaky.
Yeah.
And Doc was there to...
He's a young guy that thought he didn't need to eat,
right.
He didn't need to hydrate, and he stayed up all night. So that's a bad combination for fainting. And he was getting ready to faint, and he had a spell at the well, which is kind of unusual. We don't see that very often.
No.
So we got him in the back in the speaker's office, and we got him hydrated and fed up, and 30 minutes later he was able to come out and finish his work, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But,
doctor of the house.
And that's good to have when something like that happens, that you have somebody who knows what to do and what not to do.
Right.
Real briefly, I also serve on tax committee, and boy, that's been busy too. We've been doing a lot of good work, and so that really keeps me busy too.
Okay. So he was able to hear the Mary Eisenhower this week on the Eisenhower tax credit. So
and we did pass that out of committee.
And you did pass it out.
But we put some amendments on it.
You put some amendments on it. Disappointed me, but I understand.
You know how it works.
I do know how it works. But hopefully we'll get that on the floor, and we'll get it passed so that the Eisenhower would be entitled to those tax credits.
Good.
It's a premier tourist attraction in the state of Kansas.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we'll get it passed. The Eisenhower Library, as you well know, Doug, has been closed because of COVID-19, and so we'd like to see it open up. The foundation, of course, just finished the renovation last year, and I guess it was the year before now. COVID-19, you lose a year. That's what my wife told me at her birthday. She said she's the same age because of COVID-19 year.
Yeah.
But we spent several $1 million. Eisenhower Foundation had raised that money, so this will help.
Yeah, it will. It will indeed, and thank you for doing that. We're going to cut away, take a break. You're watching Legislative Updates. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. On the left side on your screen, in between us, is Dr. John from Atchison, 63rd District. And Doc, thank you so much for being here.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Doug. Thank you.
Well, we were talking off-screen a little bit, and you wanted to share some things in regards to something from the legislature. What is it?
Well, thank you again. And the situation with COVID is so important that we try to get everyone vaccinated. And I fashioned myself to always be an advocate for public health and public health initiatives. And we've seen a couple of, I'll call them interesting bills in the Senate side that are concerned to me that relate to preemption of business, saying that business can't require vaccinations if they need to. And I know that's a hot subject, but I think we need to let business be business and decide what's best for them. Even the state chamber came out against that bill and wants to allow businesses to have the opportunity to provide whatever health services they want to or feel like they need to. Another bill that I'm concerned about relates to the Secretary of KDH&E not being able to really advocate and regulate the list as it is for vaccinations in the state of Kansas. And we think that's important from a public health standpoint, that the Secretary have the who has the knowledge and the ability to do that. That's how it's done in all other states, and there's a push to take it out of his hands, and we think we need to keep it there. We think it's a solution looking for a problem. I'm not aware of any major problem, but those are some of the things you deal with in the State House in Topeka.
One of the things that I hear quite a bit, I'm sure you guys do too, is the situation where somebody says, I don't want the shot. I'm a young girl. I don't want to take the risk of whatever that's going to be, whether I can't have children or I have a deformed child as a result of it. And of course, we know there isn't much feedback to the testing as of yet. Do you run across that with questions like that?
We do, and I think we need to always be vanguards of trying to provide for people to make their own choice. On the other hand, I think we need to balance that with public health initiatives and awareness, and it's a hard thing to balance, and that's what we're struggling with right now, particularly with the COVID-19 vaccination. And I think you'll continue to see that evolve in discussion and debate about requirements, mandates versus public health awareness and interest.
Do you have any particular feedback that comes to you through the medical field about here's what test results are showing at a preliminary stage for those who have taken the shots or haven't taken it? Anything that comes to you that's unique to you as opposed to the others in the legislature?
I will say that I have access to MMWR, Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Review, and thus far the vaccination, which has been administered now to over 100 million times, has been an extremely safe rollout, extremely safe vaccine. In the VAERS reporting, there have been 2,000 reported deaths around the time of the vaccination. But let me say, they've not established causality. Even had one in my district last week, and so we're still investigating that. But the risks of the vaccine are profoundly lower than the risks of COVID and succumbing to COVID. So, again, trying to balance those concerns and those issues. But I think this has been a very safe vaccine, and I'm encouraging all my patients that are 16 and older when they have the opportunity to get a vaccination.
Okay. All right, and John, where do you want to go from here?
Oh, I don't know. I was going to mention a couple other bills that we took up this week. One was House Bill 2150. Came out of the judiciary. It created a definition for financial exploitation of a senior. They added a definition which will, and also it included mandatory reporters. If you think an elderly person is being taken advantage of
financially,
then the bankers and such are required to make a report on that before someone brings in an elderly person. Say, well, we want to withdraw this amount of money. The banker now has an obligation to be alert and maybe not agree to that withdrawal, but he's also a mandatory reporter, and that's just another safeguard for the elderly because they do get targeted both on the phone and in person. So I thought that was a very good bill. We also did one with power of attorneys. As you know what a durable power of attorney is.
Right.
On a regular power of attorney, just on the if it's witnessed in front of a notary now. Before, as you well know, we could just have two witnesses.
Right.
Now, if it's a notary, it's almost irrevocable. So that's one of the things we're looking at. That got passed. I think when it goes to the Senate, it's going to get tweaked a little bit, but. We're just moving things along. The judiciary's been very busy, the Judiciary Committee. Fed State less so, but the issues we have are very large issues. And so we hopefully will get those worked through. Next week we expect our budget to come out and we'll work our budget on the floor. And then it will probably go to conference. But if we, that's the only thing we're required to do each year is do a budget. And so if we can get that out and get it into conference and then pass a budget, we can go home anytime after that.
Do you think that the budget there's going to be a lot of conflict in that?
Well, it normally is between the Senate and the House. The Senate has a $400 million tax cut in it. The House has a $200 million tax cut in it. So, working out that part of it. Fortunately, the state has revenues are up a little, but also just the normal course of business. It costs more each year to run the government. So it's a balancing act. We've got a great chairman on the House side, Troy Waymaster, who's been here.
Right.
And I've got a lot of confidence. We did put in a raise for the judges this year and made Judge Powers and some other judge friends very happy. Not a big raise, but a raise, and they have not had one for a number of years.
And
So.
did that make him happy? Did that make Judge Powers happy?
Well, of course, you know how Judge Powers is.
He's a good guy.
He is a
we're
good
only
guy.
kidding. All right, we're going to cut away, take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. This is our final segment for this week's show, and next week, of course, is going to be Good Friday. We won't be filming on that day. And John, as always, thank you so much for coming back from the legislature, and appreciate it because you come in, you share that information, you always bring a good guest, and Dr. John, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I know it's you came from Atchison, so you come the opposite way and turn around and go back, and thank you for sharing that information. Thank you for being a medical doctor and giving up time out of your practice to be able to work with the legislature and to make a difference in there.
Well, thank you very much.
And I'm glad to have you guys on board and appreciate it. We'll see you next time on Legislative Updates. Thank you for watching.